As a small business owner, you've probably got a million and one things to think about in your business. Marketing campaigns, filing your accounts on time, keeping your customers happy, managing staff. I completely understand. I am a small business owner myself. But do you know what the one most important document you should have in your business is? Well, I can tell you it's not a marketing plan. It's not a staff retention plan. It's not even your business plan or any other kind of plan or any other document that you're probably thinking about. It's your standard terms of business. And the reason that they are so important is that they can make all the difference between your business surviving or going bust. So if you don't yet have standard terms in place, standard terms that have been drafted by a specialist contracts lawyer like myself, then listen on. So firstly, for those of you who don't actually know what standard terms of business are, I'll just say a little bit about that. Your standard terms and conditions, or standard terms of business, are the legal basis on which you're willing to do business with your customers, and they should be used for each and every transaction. They contain many important protections for your business, not least limiting your liability, protecting your intellectual property, and making sure you get paid. I'm sure you would agree that they are all pretty fundamental protections for your business. But they also perform many other important functions that I'm just going to take a few minutes about now to talk you through. So firstly, they create certainty as to the actual agreement between you and your customer. Oral contracts are actually, in theory, just as enforceable as written contracts. But obviously, the huge problem that you've got with oral contracts is evidence and certainty. You may forget what you agreed 2 years ago or 3 weeks ago. I know I have problems remembering what I've agreed, last week, let alone 2 years ago. Or there might be a dispute as to what was actually agreed, a bit of he said, she said. Now, I've had clients come to me and say, my customer hasn't paid because they say I haven't provided the service that they wanted. What can I do about it? So, well, the first thing I say is, what does the contract say? Very often, there isn't a contract. This is before they were my client, by the way. There is just a chain of emails that I've then got to plough through and try to work out what the actual contractual position is. And let me tell you, that costs an awful lot more for me to do and to advise you on whether it's actually worth pursuing that client for non-payment than if there had been a proper contract in place. And even if I can decipher what I think was contractually agreed, then if it's not entirely clear as to what is agreed, then it leaves scope for argument, so that if your customer does actually take their own legal advice, their lawyer might say, well, the terms aren't entirely clear on this, so it's worth fighting it. Whereas if you did have a clear contract, clear terms of business, the lawyer's advice would probably be for your customer to pay up. Now, if you do have properly drafted terms, it's going to be much, much easier to enforce your side of the agreement. For example, things like non-payment by your customers. All you would need to do is hand the matter to a debt collection agency. And the way that they work is that they take a percentage of the amount recovered. So if you don't recover anything, they don't get paid. You don't have to pay them up front. And that's generally a lot more cost effective for you than going to see a solicitor. But here's the rub. Debt collection agencies won't generally get involved if the contractual position is unclear. You would have to get legal advice from a solicitor, and this obviously is going to be a lot more expensive. Terms of business, very importantly, also help to avoid mismatched expectations. Now, I see this a lot. Mismatched expectations are not good for your business, and it's the area that produces the most legal disputes. So, for example, you might be a web designer and your customer might be expecting delivery of their beautiful new shiny website in 2 weeks, and yet they're constantly changing their mind about what they want the website to say, what they want the website to look like, etc. If you have spelt out clearly upfront in your terms and conditions the milestones that you're working to, the timescales for those milestones, the input you need from the client and at what times you need that input, and make it clear that if they keep changing their mind, then you have the right to increase the fee or charge on an hourly basis for that work, then the client knows the position up front and is a lot less likely to mess you about. And if they do, legally, you've got it covered. In certain industries, by law, you need to include certain things in your terms and conditions. So if you don't have any at all, then that is a bit of a problem for you and it could get you in some very hot water. For example, if you're selling to consumers at a distance, say over the phone or through the internet, which, let's face it, most of us do these days, then by law, we need to include certain provisions in our terms. Now, aside from the more legal protections that I've just talked about, your standard terms can also help you to provide really good customer service to your customers. So you can include things like sections in your terms on your refund policy, for example, or a complaints policy that you might have, or if there's any element of insurance that's to the benefit of the customer. All of that can really reassure a customer when they're looking at doing business with you. And perhaps most importantly, if you do have an exit strategy for your business and you're hoping to sell it one day for a good return on all your hard work, and I hope you do have an exit plan, any buyer is going to want to see that you've had well-drafted terms and conditions in place for all of your transactions in the past, so that the risk for them in taking on your business is minimised. So that's all I'm going to say about how important it is to have proper terms and conditions in place, and I hope that you have got that message about how important they are. But you're probably sitting there thinking, I really haven't got the time or the budget right now to deal with that. Well, I must give you a word of warning. Please don't be tempted to copy terms of business from a competitor or anyone else. Firstly, they probably aren't right for your business. The number of times I've seen terms that have completely foreign concepts in there, particularly when people are copying from American terms that have completely different legal terminology from UK law. And secondly, you are likely to be sued for breach of copyright if you do steal somebody else's terms and conditions. That's effectively what you're doing. Now, lawyers like me, we often check for phrases within our documents to see whether people are using them without license, and that could lead to a claim for breach of copyright against you. And thirdly, as a non-lawyer, you're probably going to consider the more business-related terms such as price, payment terms, and delivery costs. But you might not think about the more legal aspects like limiting your liability, disclaiming your liability, force majeure clauses, protecting your intellectual property rights, and the passing of title and risk. Whereas a well-drafted set of terms will fully protect your position. Now, I want to help you with putting the most important document in your business in place. And I want to help you take action right now so that you don't become part of the statistics where 56% of micro businesses suffer significant legal problems in any one year. With all that resulting expense, distraction from running your business, and, in many cases, health issues. So I'm going to be letting you know how you can easily and affordably put in place your terms of business, and indeed all the other legal documents that you might need in your business for less than the price of your daily cup of coffee. Now, if you think that sounds good, and I'm sure you do think that sounds great, then you'll definitely want to sign up to our early bird list to be the first to hear about our affordable solution for your business. Just enter your email details below and we'll make sure that you're the very first to know about how we can help you.